Hi everyone, and welcome to your second fusion assignment. This one is going to be on extruding. We'll end up making 4 different shapes by the time that we're finished. You're going to start out by opening a new Onshape or new fusion design. You can click the plus tab up here, or you can come over here and do new design. Either one of those options will work, but make sure that you are in a new one. It's probably good practice to go ahead and save this as that tutorial and then maybe put your name in there as well. That way it's easier for me to keep track of them as I'm grading them. And then remember to save often manually by using this button. Just a reminder that the program will not automatically save anything for you. So we're going to start out with a sketch. Just as good practice, I like to put everything on the front sketch. Looking at the instructions, it wants you to make a 2x3 rectangle, and then we're going to extrude that for a distance of 1.35 here. So I'm going to create a 2-point rectangle starting at my origin just because, and then going to type, looking back at the dimensions, it's 3x2, so 3 wide, 2 tall. You'll see that the height is highlighted, so I want it to be 2, and then press tab, and then I want the width to be 3, and then press enter. If for some reason your units are still in millimeters, you can change that over here in the document settings and then edit that information here. Once you have created that rectangle, we'll finish this sketch, and then we're going to extrude it. It'll automatically select that profile for you. You'll see down here under operations that you can make a new body, you can join something, cut something, make an intersection, and then some other options as well. We can discuss these later as we get to them, so keep it under new body, and you want that distance to be 1.35. And then press OK. So that will create your first extrusion. We're going to create the other parts all in this one document just to keep everything together. So looking back at our instructions, looking at the next shape, we're going to be creating a rectangle or triangular shape and then extruding it at a tapered distance. So I'm going to start out by creating a sketch and then just putting it on the front of the shape, or you can select the same work plane that we started out to begin with. Again, we're going to keep them all on the same document just so it's easier to upload it in the end. So I'm going to start out by drawing that triangle, just guessing at its overall shape, and then I'm going to come back and add those dimensions in. As you're doing these though, please try to keep them relatively close together. If something ends up overlapping, you can always go back in and change it by grabbing one of the corners after you fully constrained it. But when you have them really spread out, it makes it difficult for me to find them, and then it's possible I might overlook something. So we're going to constrain this shape here. Looking at the dimensions, we want it to be 1.5 for the width and then 1 for the height, and then this length of the hypotenuse will automatically correct itself. I'm also going to horizontally constrain this edge and vertically constrain this one if it's not already like that. And then the base we want to be 1.5, and then the height we want to be 1. Once you get the triangle created, we'll finish that sketch, rotate it around just a little bit, and extrude it just like we did on this one. Instead, though, in addition to the distance, which the distance should be negative 0.5, we're also going to change the taper angle. So by making the distance negative 0.5 instead of 0.5, you'll see it's going the opposite direction than this one went. And then for the taper angle, you can watch and see what happens whenever I change that. You'll see that it kind of extrudes out. If I were to make this negative, you'll see that it's extruding more inward. So I'm going to switch that back to positive. You can see the difference that it makes there. So that creates our second part. And then for our third shape, we're going to be creating a rectangle with a triangular shape cut out of it. And then we'll make the same rectangular shape again and then add that triangle to the outside. So looking at this, the dimensions of it should be 1.25 by 0.75 tall, and then we'll extrude it for 0.5. So I'll start with a sketch again on that same plane as before. You can put it wherever. I'm going to take a rectangle, click and release, and then I want the width to be 1.25 and the height to be 0.75. So 1.25 tab 0.75, enter, finish that sketch, extrude it 0.5, positive or negative, it doesn't really matter. Now to create that cutout of the triangle on the front of this, I'm going to add a sketch to the front of this shape. And then I will zoom in and I will roughly and carefully create a triangle and try to prevent it from snapping in any direction and like creating a constraint that you didn't mean to create. So just be careful. It's really easy to snap this point of the triangle to the midpoint of the line. So just be mindful of that as you're drawing. So one thing I want is for this to be an equilateral triangle. So I'm going to add an equal constraint to all three sides. And then you want a horizontal constraint on this bottom edge. If you don't already have one, which I do, you can see it here, but you can add it by clicking here. Then we're going to add some dimensions to it to locate it and size it. I want the size of the triangle to be 0.5 on all three sides, and once you add that equal constraint, it'll automatically adjust the other two. And then I want it to be located 0.5 from the left edge horizontally and 0.2 from the bottom edge vertically. So we'll add some location dimensions, 0.5 here, and then 0.2 here. Now just keep in mind going forward, especially as we move on to dimensioning our drawings, there are two types of dimensions. One is a size dimension, which would be like 0.5 here, which tells us the length of the line. The other type of dimension is a location dimension, which would locate the object where it's supposed to be, but that doesn't really reflect the size at all. So this 0.5 and this 0.2 is our location dimensions, and then this 0.5 here is a size dimension. So just be mindful of that. So after you get the triangle, you'll finish that sketch. I like to rotate it to more of an isometric view so I can see what I'm working with. We're going to extrude. This time, beside operation, we're going to drop down and we're going to cut because we want to cut this triangle out of the shape. So choose cut and then choose the triangle. And then this shape has a depth of 0.5, so I'm going to add 0.5 here. You can see that that 0.5 is going in this direction, which isn't going to allow me to cut it out. So I'm going to switch that value to negative 0.5, and now you can see it's turning red. And in this case, the red means that it's removing something, and press OK. When I rotate, should be able to see all the way through the shape. So now we're going to recreate this, the same rectangular shape, the same size and location of the triangle, except this time we will add it. So you're going to want to go through and recreate this rectangular box by adding in a sketch. Again, you can add it on whatever surface. I just like to keep it consistent and keep adding it in the same place. And then again, the width of it is 1.25, and then the height is 0.75. And then we'll finish that sketch and extrude it for a distance of 0.5. Starting a sketch on the front surface again, just like before. Drawing in a triangle. Some programs make a polygon tool. I don't think this one has that. We just have a rectangular shape. We want to make sure that this bottom edge is horizontal. It appears as though that constraint has already been applied. And then we want to make each of the sides equal. And then we'll add in our dimensions. So again, the width of it is 0.5 from the bottom of the rectangular to the bottom of the triangle is 0.2, and then from the left edge to the top of your triangle is going to be 0.5. We'll finish that sketch, and then we will extrude it. This time under operation, we're going to join. We'll click on the triangle. You'll see that it's also going in the same direction as before. And looking at the directions to see how thick that triangle needs to be, we have 0.5. So we'll add 0.5 in there as our dimension and press enter. And now you can see you have created 3 different extrusions, cut something out of an extrusion and added on. And then if for some reason along the way you notice that you did something wrong, forgot to add a constraint, forgot to add a dimension, whatever the case may be, you can always go in and edit the things that you have. So if you look down here along the bottom, you can kind of see your progress along here. So you can edit any of those things that you've done along here. So let's say we need to go back and change a dimension on this first extrusion that we made. Now this applies to just the extrusion part. So say the depth is wrong or you forgot to put the tapered angle, whatever the case may be, you can double click here and then you can modify that information here. If you need to modify the sketch, so let's say that you didn't locate the triangle horizontally, you only did it vertically, we can come back and find the sketch that this is associated with. If you hover over them, it'll highlight it. So this is the one that I'm looking for. If you double click, you can go in, edit it, modify that information to finish the sketch. And because this program is what we classify as adaptive, any changes that you make along here will be reflected throughout the whole program, and then your shape will adapt to it, unlike something like AutoCAD, where if you change something like that, if you're even able to edit it, you will have to adjust everything else manually. So that finishes out this second tutorial. Make sure that you save your work before you do anything. It may ask you to update it. I'm doing extrude and then your name. You may want to modify this as latest version or timestamp it or something like that and press OK, because some people have accidentally uploaded previous copies instead of their most recent version. Once you save it, then you should be able to share it and get a public link. If for some reason the share is grayed out and it won't let you share the document or get access to the link, then you haven't saved your document at all. And then as always, if you get feedback that's less than 100, you're always welcome to resubmit it for full credit.